Why is it that after a long day of work, choosing what to eat for dinner feels like an impossible task? You aren't lazy, you're experiencing decision fatigue. Every tiny choice you make is a withdrawal from your brain's limited energy bank, leaving your executive function completely bankrupt by sunset. To understand why your brain seemingly checks out at 4 p.m., we have to look at the biology of the prefrontal cortex, the CEO of your mind. This region is responsible for complex planning, personality expression, and moderate social behavior. Unlike your heart or lungs, which operate on a fairly consistent level of autonomic energy, the prefrontal cortex is incredibly expensive to run. It consumes a disproportionate amount of glucose compared to other parts of the brain. When you spend 8 hours weighing the pros and cons of email responses, navigating office politics, or managing a household, you are essentially burning through high-octane fuel. By late afternoon, the tank isn't just low, it is empty. This isn't a metaphor for feeling tired. It is a physiological state where the biological processes required for rational thought begin to stall. As this cognitive depletion sets in, a fascinating and somewhat terrifying shift occurs within your neural architecture. Your brain begins to reroute processing away from the sophisticated prefrontal cortex and down into the more primitive regions, such as the amygdala and the basal ganglia. This is a survival mechanism. When the rational self is too exhausted to function, the primitive self takes the wheel. This shift moves you from a state of objective reasoning to a state of survivalist reactivity. In this primitive state, you are no longer concerned with long-term goals, health, or financial stability. Instead, your brain prioritizes immediate gratification and the conservation of energy. This is why you might be able to resist a donut at 9 a.m. with ease, but find yourself staring at a pizza delivery app at 5 p.m. Your brain has shifted its priority from what is best for my future self to what is the easiest way to get calories right now. You have effectively lost the ability to simulate the future, leaving you trapped in a reactive present where every minor inconvenience feels like a threat to your survival. This transition into a survivalist state leads directly into the phenomenon of decision avoidance. When the brain is bankrupt of executive energy, it seeks to minimize further losses at all costs. This results in decision paralysis, or defaulting to the path of least resistance. Psychologically, this manifests as a desperate need to avoid making any choice that requires weighing variables. If a waiter asks you to choose between 2 side dishes and you've already spent the day making $100 decisions at work, your brain might genuinely experience a flash of resentment or panic. To save itself, the brain defaults to the status quo bias. This is the tendency to do nothing, or to stick with a previous decision, regardless of whether it is still the best option. This is why you might find yourself mindlessly scrolling through a streaming service for an hour without actually picking a movie. The act of evaluating the options is more taxing than the passive act of scrolling. Your brain is essentially trying to go dark to prevent further energy expenditure, favoring any outcome that requires zero active participation. The physical reality of cognitive depletion goes deeper than just feeling indecisive. It actually alters the way your neurons communicate regarding impulse control. Willpower is not a character trait or a moral virtue. It is a finite biological resource. Studies in neurobiology have shown that when the brain is in a state of decision fatigue, the communication between the impulse-generating centers and the impulse control centers becomes frayed. It is as if the brakes on a car have overheated and stopped responding. This is why late afternoon irritability is so common. You aren't necessarily a more frustrated person at 4 p.m. than you were at 10 a.m., but your brain no longer has the energy to veto the frustrated impulses that arise. Every time you hold your tongue or force yourself to focus, you use up a unit of this control. By the end of the day, your impulse control is physically diminished. This depletion explains why people are more likely to cheat on diets, overspend, or engage in high-risk behaviors in the evening. The brain's stop signal has simply run out of power. To combat this, we have to treat our decision-making capacity like a smartphone battery. We must understand that every time we check a notification, choose an outfit, or decide which route to take to work, we are losing a percentage of our daily charge. The most successful people in the world often automate the trivialities of their lives, wearing the same style of clothing or eating the same breakfast, not because they lack creativity, but because they are hoarding their executive function for the moments that truly matter. If you find yourself hitting that 4 p.m. wall, it is a signal that your biological system is demanding a reboot. By acknowledging that your willpower is a physical resource rather than an infinite well, you can begin to restructure your day, making your most vital decisions in the morning and leaving the low-stakes, automated tasks for the hours when your primitive brain is inevitably going to take over. Understanding the science of decision fatigue allows you to stop blaming your character and start managing your biology.